Welcome back, everyone. Grab your popcorn because today's story is packed with shocking twists, emotional moments, and secrets that change everything. Let's jump right in. Love is a very complicated thing, isn't it? When we watch the ongoing drama in Port Charles, we are reminded of how deeply love can change a person's heart. Right now, we are seeing this transformation happen before our eyes with Jacinda Bracken and Michael Corinthos. The more time Jacinda spends with Michael, the more she is falling completely in love with him. It is always beautiful to witness someone caring for another person so deeply, wanting to be their rock in a stormy world. But as we have learned through decades of watching these beloved families navigate life, love can sometimes blind us to reason. It can make us fiercely, almost dangerously protective, and it can push us to do things we never thought we were capable of doing. Jacinda is currently experiencing that overwhelming kind of love, the kind that makes you want to sweep away every single obstacle in your partner's path, no matter the cost. But there is a very large, deeply complicated obstacle standing in the way of their newfound peace, and her name is Willow Kane. For Jacinda, the lingering presence of Willow is rapidly becoming an unbearable thorn in her side. We can all understand that frustrating feeling, cannot we? When you are trying to build a fresh, beautiful new life with someone you cherish, the absolute last thing you want is the dark shadow of their past looming over your daily happiness. Jacinda clearly sees the immense pain and the complicated history that Willow brings to Michael's life, and it makes her feel profoundly uncomfortable. Every time Willow is near, Jacinda feels that familiar, bitter sting of irritation. It is not just about petty insecurity. It is about wanting a clean, peaceful slate for the man she loves so dearly. She desperately wants Michael to be entirely free of the heartache that Willow represents. But Willow just will not quietly fade into the background. Now, as we all know, Michael Corinthos is a man who has learned many hard lessons from his powerful family over the years. When it comes to dealing with the pain Willow has caused, Michael is not rushing blindly into anything. He is consciously choosing to be deeply strategic, carefully calculating his every move. He wants to silently manipulate the entire situation from behind the scenes, steering the outcome exactly where he wants it to go without getting his own hands dirty. Michael has been profoundly hurt by betrayal. And while he absolutely hopes that Willow will eventually pay a heavy price for everything she has done, he is perfectly willing to play a very long, very cold game. He is not going to throw a public tantrum or make a sudden, reckless move that could backfire. Instead, he is quite comfortable letting things unfold naturally, believing in his heart that Willow's ultimate downfall is inevitable. He truly thinks that if he just waits with quiet patience, the universe will deliver the justice he seeks. This is exactly where we begin to see a fascinating, deeply emotional clash of personalities and life lessons. Michael's chosen approach requires a tremendous amount of patience and emotional restraint, qualities that can be incredibly hard to maintain when your heart has been shattered. Jacinda, on the other hand, is becoming completely exhausted by this endless waiting game. She is growing utterly sick and tired of Willow's constant presence and simply cannot bring herself to support Michael's patient, passive tactics. For Jacinda, waiting silently feels exactly like giving Willow ongoing permission to keep hurting them and disrupting their peace. When you love someone with all your heart, it is agonizing to sit back and watch them deal with unresolved pain. Jacinda's frustration is rapidly boiling over because she wants immediate, decisive justice for the man she loves. She wants the painful chapter closed, the heavy book shut, and the dark past left behind forever so they can finally move forward. As we look ahead to the warm summer months, the whispers and dramatic revelations from Port Charles suggest that Jacinda is going to become incredibly eager to speed up the complicated process of bringing Willow down. She is clearly no longer content to just sit quietly on the sidelines and wait for karma to intervene on Michael's behalf. This is always a very dangerous, pivotal turning point for any person. When we decide to take matters entirely into our own hands out of deep anger or sheer impatience, we often end up losing a precious piece of our own goodness in the process. Jacinda is bravely, or perhaps foolishly, stepping onto a very slippery moral slope. It strongly appears that she is going to firmly seize control of the messy situation and start actively plotting against Willow. She is thoroughly tired of Michael's passive, wait-and-see strategy and is now completely ready to force the issue, no matter what kind of chaos it might unleash. It is truly saddening to witness, but Jacinda seems ready to embrace a much darker, more sinister side of her personality. She desperately wants to prove that she is not just a sweet, passive partner, but someone who is fiercely willing to get down in the mud and fight dirty if the situation calls for it. Over the decades, we have seen so many good, decent people in Port Charles completely lose their way because they wrongly thought the ends justified their terrible means. True forgiveness is always the much harder path to walk, but it is the only path that ever leads to genuine, lasting peace. Jacinda, however, is consciously choosing the bitter path of vengeance. She is allowing her deep-seated resentment toward Willow to fundamentally change her very nature. It is a tragic, timeless life lesson unfolding right on our television screens. When you actively seek to destroy someone else, you very often end up slowly destroying your own soul in the process. This dark, troubling shift in Jacinda's behavior is being heavily fueled by recent events involving Brooklyn Quartermaine. As we all know so well, strong family bonds are absolutely everything to the Quartermaines, and they will go to extraordinary lengths to protect their own blood. Brooklyn had recently cooked up her own desperate scheme, hoping to completely and utterly ruin Willow's life. She actually attempted to maliciously frame Congresswoman Kane for a terrible, violent crime, specifically the horrifying hit-and-run accident that left poor Jordan Ashford in such a vulnerable state. It was a remarkably bold, incredibly risky, and ultimately deeply flawed plan born out of a fierce desire for payback and family protection. But as we have seen so many times in this town, these elaborate schemes built on lies and deceit rarely work out the way people hope they will. Ultimately, Brooklyn's grand, deceptive plan to pin the tragic hit and run entirely on Willow falls completely and embarrassingly flat. The entire scheme collapses under its own weight, and Willow, as she so very often does, manages to gracefully escape the dangerous snare. It is incredibly frustrating for the people who firmly feel she truly deserves to face harsh justice for her past actions. We have all known people in our real lives who seem to effortlessly dodge the heavy consequences of their bad choices, leaving a wide trail of hurt feelings in their wake. Willow's uncanny ability to wiggle out of impossibly tight spots is practically legendary at this point, and her surprising survival of Brooklyn's vicious plot is just another glaring example of her incredible luck. But while Willow might be breathing a deep sigh of relief right now, she has absolutely no idea that this failed plot has only made things much worse for her future. Willow has spent many long years miraculously finding the hidden exit doors in difficult situations, often relying on the generous forgiveness of others or just sheer luck to get by. But Jacinda is proving to be a very different, much more dangerous kind of adversary. Jacinda is highly likely going to deliberately manufacture a new crisis so deeply complex and so intensely personal that Willow will finally find herself hopelessly cornered. Jacinda desperately wants to create a nightmare scenario where Willow cannot simply talk her way out, cannot rely on Michael's lingering sympathy, and cannot find any secret escape route. It is a chilling, unsettling thought, watching one woman actively, coldly plot the absolute ruin of another human being. It makes all of us wonder just how far the writers of General Hospital are truly willing to push this new, deeply scheming side of Jacinda. Just how much dark malice is she concealing behind her profound love for Michael? As deeply devoted, longtime viewers, we simply cannot help but notice a very heartbreaking, repetitive pattern in Michael Corinthos' romantic life. It sadly seems that Michael has a truly tragic habit of falling deeply in love with women who eventually go completely off the rails and lose their moral compass. We have watched him pour his entire heart into relationships, only to inevitably see the women he loves succumb to their absolute darkest impulses, leading to terrible betrayal, profound heartache, and completely shattered family bonds. Is Jacinda tragically destined to become just another sad name on that long, heartbreaking list? Will her desperate, consuming need to protect Michael and utterly destroy Willow ultimately make her completely unrecognizable to the very man she claims to love? Regardless of what happens, Jacinda is definitely painting a massive target on Willow, and deeply troubling news is on the horizon. Thank you for joining us today, dear friends. Please remember to cherish your own beautiful families, practice gentle forgiveness, and always make us your favorite, trusted place for all your General Hospital updates.